company. But
I call the Honourable Jenny Salesa.
Madam Speaker, thank you for this opportunity to speak on the annual review of Housing New Zealand, and I'll also cover social development as well. But, Madam Chair, I'll begin with Housing New Zealand. So Housing New Zealand Corporation 2016-2017, they recorded a surplus of $65 million, and in the year prior to that it was $134 million in 2016. But, Madam Chair, when you look at this appropriations report a little bit later, what they cover is payment of dividend. Now, one of the things that the previous government did, and I quote, under the Housing Corporation Act, the corporation is required to pay its annual surplus to the Crown unless, and I must emphasise that word, Madam Speaker, unless the responsible ministers authorise otherwise. Now, we know that over the last 9 years, when the previous national government was in government, most of those years, Housing New Zealand Corporation was required to find the surplus, and this surplus was paid back into the government coffers. And we know, Madam Speaker, that a whole lot of our state houses, instead of utilising as Housing New Zealand Corporation is right now, utilising some of that money to ensure that the houses are well maintained, that they are warm, dry and healthy. That was not done. I'm happy to say, though, Madam Speaker, that that is what is currently being done now under this current government. I have to reflect on both the previous speaker and the former Minister of Housing, who spoke about how he was proud of the previous national government's record on housing. Can I say that when you have record homelessness, when we know that Aotearoa New Zealand has the worst rate of homelessness now, that when we are number one for homelessness when compared to the other OECD countries, Madam Speaker, I would not be proud of that particular record. That is a record that none of us should be proud of. The fact that we are short by 71,000 houses across all of New Zealand, the fact that in Auckland, our largest city, we are short by 45,000 houses, the fact that we know there are still so many of our families that do not have a roof over their heads. Can I go back and reflect on 2016-2017? One of the things that I, as a local member of Parliament, and many others of colleagues from this side of the House, tried to ensure that the current government at the time was aware of was the fact that we actually had a housing crisis. This is something that we acknowledged when we were in opposition, and it is something we still know today is a fact, which is one of the reasons why we're saying that we will do this Kiwi build. And one of the things that the former housing minister was talking about was the fact that we would only be building several thousand homes. Honourable Nick Smith didn't then say that the 1,000 homes that the housing minister is talking about is 1,000 Kiwi build homes. That is not counting the houses that Housing New Zealand Corporation is building. That is not counting the houses that private developers are building right now. Only the Kiwi build homes. And the year after that, it'll be 5,000 Kiwi build affordable homes. And on the third year, 10,000 Kiwi built affordable homes. But can I go back to the fact that we have a housing issue that we are addressing? After 9 years of the previous government, we have been landed with so many issues. Housing is one of them. Homelessness, the fact that we are having to... One of the points that my honourable colleague who has given a speech also mentioned was the fact that state houses, that we are now no longer selling off state houses, and that we should look at cleanliness, and cleanliness is a good example. At the same time that the previous government was selling off the state houses was the time that they were also investing in motels. Now, when we look at the social development part of this annual review, we see that the demand in terms of social housing. Demand exceeds supply in many communities. We also see covered in there transitional housing. Now, the fact that in 2016-2017 we had to invest in so many emergency houses and transitional houses was because we were not catering for the numbers of houses that our people need, was because the previous government was selling off the state houses.
I call the Honourable Tracy Martin.
Kia ora, Madam Chair. Thank you very much. It's an honour to speak in the estimates debate, and I'd just like to actually speak about vote